We have an end of the year project that we're attacking, and it's actually been a work in progress for quite some time. The non-skid decks back here on the swim step and the cockpit have started cracking and spidering, and the water starts intruding into the mat underneath the gel coat. So how do you fix that? Well, there's a couple ways. One, you can have somebody redo all the gel coat with the non-skid back here. That means they have to grind all of it out and then reshoot gel coat and put in the non-skid. And here's the treat or surprise that comes after you later. It's gonna do the same thing because it did it after 10 years. So how else can you fix it? Well, we started looking at putting down teak decks. We started looking at decks that were faux teak decks. Some of them weren't really the look we were going for, even though a lot of people really like them. We had some foam EVA type stuff. In fact, we have it on the high field. We had it on a Cobalt once, and it was hotter than heck. The new stuff's pretty good. The high field isn't that hot when you put your feet on it. But what we landed on was Flexiteek. And this stuff actually looks a lot like teak, but it is, well, it's man-made. It's recyclable. I don't really care because I'm not gonna recycle it, but it is, if those are the things you care about. But the best part is, it looks and feels like teak. It stays cool, and it doesn't have all the downside of teak. It doesn't get mildew. Up here in the Pacific Northwest, that's an issue, especially since we're on freshwater, because the way you take care of a teak deck is you swab it and scrub it with salt water, which kills any mildew on it, and then it also patinas it nicely. It's gray. Again, we're not in salt water, so we can't do that. The best way to attack this is use Flexiteek. It's on numerous brand new yachts. It looks incredible. And we decided, instead of doing the teak color, and there's a bajillion colors, we went with something that looks like it's freshly bleached, because in the Northwest it's about as good as it's gonna get, but we also don't want to look fake, which original teak, it looks that way for about 20 minutes. We're in Port Ludlow, and we ripped all the staples off, and the reason is we're gonna have those sit on top of the new Flexiteek that's going in. We had a gentleman, Eric, that came and he measured the cockpit as well as the swim step earlier in the season, and he's been working diligently in his shop with his Flexiteek elves and building all of this out custom for the Elli-Yacht. We've seen a bunch of pictures. They look really good. We've had a great dialogue with Eric. He's just been amazing. We'll put a link down below. He's out of Port Angeles, which, you know, it's a long run for him to get to Seattle and do the work on the boat. So we came up to Port Ludlow, which is like an hour drive for him, much easier. And he's able to do all the work. So tomorrow, super exciting, Eric is gonna show up. He's gonna lay down all the Flexiteek, he's gonna trim it, make sure everything looks right, and then we'll put all the hardware back on after he's done with that. But there's gonna be things that are pretty tricky too. We wanna make sure that it looks like the boat was originally done with Flexiteek or with a teak, and that's gonna be hard on the poor gentleman because he's gonna have to pull all of the fuel fills, he's gonna have to pull the water fill. I already pulled all the staples behind us. Not too hard to do that. It's gonna be rough on us because we're gonna be in beautiful Port Ludlow, which is a resort. We're gonna enjoy the sun. Got the dinghy here, do some sunset and morning dinghy cruises.
Day one of getting our new teak flooring put in. So he's bringing all the pieces down, and it's a process. It's gonna take three and a half days maybe to get it all done. It's very intricate. It's like putting a puzzle together. So we'll see how this goes. Right now, he's just waiting for some of these pieces to flatten out, because once they get warm, they'll flatten out and expand a little bit. So many options, but these are all the different options. This one is teak. That one's the most popular, according to Eric. The bleached, some of these tags have come off, so I don't know all of them. Weather just looked a little bit too weathered. You can go gray with black, or gray with white. Walnut, that would look cool on a deck, but not on a boat. And then the black one. We actually tested. The black one does not get hot. You think it would get hot, and it doesn't. We put it in the sun when it was like 80 degrees out and stepped on it, and it didn't get hot. So if you like black, that could be an option too, especially if it was on a dinghy or something. But we decided on the bleached with the black. So it doesn't look brand new, but it doesn't look weathered. Leroy likes it too. John took out the latches and it was being filled with gel coat so it'd be flush, and we're going to come up with a new solution. They had to remove the door in order to sand it down because there wasn't quite enough room underneath for the new teak decking. So it was kind of a process, and if I were to do this again, probably would have left the door alone since you can't see it when the door's closed anyways. There was one spot that didn't look quite right, so Eric had to adjust it. The best part about Flexiteek is it is very flexible and forgiving, so he was able to make those adjustments, piece it all back together so it fit and looked the same as the other side of the decking. And it turned out great. We were very pleased with it. Now that all the pieces were trimmed up and ready to go, he cleaned the deck with alcohol to make sure he had a clean surface, and then it was a matter of putting the adhesive down and laying it down. The challenge with this project is we have a lip underneath the door, so he had to kind of fold it and put it underneath, and not being able to completely put it flat was a challenge for him, but he figured it out and we got it done and it looked great. We just didn't want to have a gap that did not have any teak on it.
And the final step of adhering the Flexiteek to the deck was to roll it out to ensure that no air bubbles were trapped underneath. Like Carlin was saying, there were 3 sections to the cockpit, and once those were all laid down, this is kind of the cool part. Eric went through and he grooved the areas that needed to be seamed together, and then he has this festool that basically just takes that black PVC and then it heats and fuses the 2 pieces back together, which is exactly how basically this is built out in the shop. He's able to just do it in the field. Now that leaves a bead right on the top of it, which then after he's done fusing this entire piece together, he'll back cut. And once that back cutting is done, he'll do a 80 grit sand on it, and you can't even tell that's where the 2 pieces were brought together. Again, it's how it was all built out in the shop originally, so there's no reason it can't happen in the field. This makes it super flexible to be able to do repairs in the field as well. So if you check it out, like here's a spot here, and this is 2 things. You just take this 80 grit, which is basically the same grit that they use to put the grain into this basically PVC product. But you can clean stains like this white caulking off of it, or anything else that might get on it, spills, or things that you just basically can't clean off real easy. You just take this, do some, it's a real light sand, and it just keeps the grain consistent, but it also removes whatever stain might exist. And you just vacuum that up, and off you go. Super durable, really easy to care for.
Leroy's getting a new feel for the new dinghy.
That's right.
There you go. Good boy. He's figuring it out.
Is that home? Can I go home?
The next day we had to move because there was a Katie Krogan rendezvous. One thing I did enjoy about Port Ludlow is they have many walking trails, and I had a chance to walk all the way over to the falls. What do you think?
I think it's turning out really well. It's super flat. It looks like fresh wood. It's super impressive. It's Staples tomorrow. New cleats for the dinghy. And just a bunch of detail work. All the caulking around the edges and sanding off any of the blemishes and stuff. But it's wonderful. It's everything I could have hoped for.
Time for the Staples?
Outward like this. We talked about just inside.
It's 11, so just bring it out a little, yeah, a little bit more towards me. That's good.
At the end of the day, we were very pleased with the Flexiteek, and the Elli-Yacht is looking like a brand new boat. If you want to learn more, boat projects are never ending, so subscribe and you're going to learn a lot. John always has a project in store. Project was finally done, and John walked Eric back up, and now it was time to have a dock party, which we were invited to. And the new decks are Leroy approved.